Hi, welcome to episode 98 of Creepy Soup. I'm Jill.
You got it. I'm Jenny.
I looked before you even jumped on.
Oh,
So how's it going?
peachy.
Lovely, lovely. Yeah. It's been a week. I'm glad Mercury's finally dipped. It's moved on because this one was rough. Um, and I was telling Johnny this earlier. I had some just today. Now it's probably later than I'm thinking it is. I don't even know.
Just
Um,
about 1:30 for
yeah.
you.
Um, so I've been out of bed for approximately 3 hours, and Jenny and I have been doing this for an hour.
Yep.
And so before that, um, we've had a couple of interesting, and maybe they're not paranormal, but I think they are. Um, and I don't know if I talked about the one before about the my bedroom door opening.
I don't remember if you did on the show or not.
Um, Anyway, about a month ago, I was going in my room to get my glasses. Roy was still sleeping. Um, and I make sure the door is closed because if it swings open, it's going to smack the wall and wake him up. And I'm avoiding that, right? So I'm very careful. And if it's going to open, it's going to do it right away, right? No.
Mhm.
So I'm all the way over on the other side of the bed. And my room's not that big, but it's a whole thing. Um, the door opens slowly, not fast, like it just came unlatched and swung open. And then my son-in-law was sitting on the couch. I'm like, when that opened, did the door handle turn? He was like, yeah, I thought you were coming out. Hmm. So today I get up and talking to the grandkids, my daughter, my son, and I'm out of my room for a good 25 minutes. Maybe because it was right after you texted me, good morning. And then I texted you back. So it was after I got your text. And it was probably about 25 minutes after I got your text when this happened. So, and I was already actually out of the room for a few minutes before I got your text. So 25 minutes, half hour. All of a sudden, the door opens. We're all expecting Roy to come out of the bedroom. And then we're just standing there because Roy is not coming out of the bedroom. And Jackson's like, what the heck? What the heck's going on? And me and my son are in the kitchen. We're looking like, what? Like it happened. Well, my daughter and her family had doings today. So they left. So it's just me and my son in the kitchen and we're talking because he got me an adapter thing for my computer. And some dishes. I have an over the sink dish strainer, whatever. And there was a few dishes in there and they shifted and there was no one had touched it. It is in front of an open window, but the open window is at the bottom of so there was no reason for the dishes to shift. So yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
Yeah. So I don't remember if it was yesterday morning or the morning before. I'm laying here in bed. Um, you know, I wasn't really awake yet. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of stuff just goes falling off of like my microwave and all of that kind of stuff out of the blue. Um, no one had been using the stairs, so there wasn't like extra vibration in the wall to have caused it to have knocked down. Obviously, I was in bed, I wasn't near it. So yeah, that was definitely fun. but I've had a lot of other odd happenings
Yeah. Yeah.
over the week. But we're not going to get into it because it's a lot.
Yeah. And there has been a lot here. Like for a while it calmed way down. And there was nothing. And then it started up again. Um and I don't know. It's like I don't know. It's just been really interesting is the best way I can put it.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, I know you got your testing and stuff coming up. Are you ready just to get that done and over with?
Yeah, but at the same time, is next week done yet?
It's not. Um, I uh, I don't know. I'm ready and I'm a couple weeks less than a couple weeks away now from the Gary Allen concert and I'm currently not excited.
It's most likely stress.
It could be work has been a nightmare. Um
Well, between work and home, yeah. I mean, I get it.
um yeah. Uh so I work in like a little sequencing cell where I put parts on a rack so they can be pulled off when someone's using them online. So I sequence them. And I sequence two parts, and then there's another one that I have to it's like giving titty twisters all day because I got to put these little arm things in and like start to screw them in. So it's literally like giving titty twisters all day long. Um, and most of the week we ran one of the part numbers of those and that was so that rack was getting flipped like every 8 minutes instead of its usual 15, 20. So every 8 minutes, so then it was making my other things that I was sequencing much harder to get done. And the one is a pain in the ass because you have to pull things out of bags because they're some of the part numbers are like a premium, higher quality. They go on the more premium trucks. And because we
Okay.
were running so many premiums, there was a lot of those you have to take them out of the bag. Well, they're like an angle with these sharp things. So there's always something getting caught on the bags because sometimes you can just like whip them right out and it's not a problem. Well, then they let us know that I am losing that part from my kit cell and I'm getting another part. That part is not in bags. That's only two different, well, because with the one part I had, I was only doing the right side. Well, this is now I have both sides, but I've got two parts for each side, either brown or black. That's it,
Hmm,
brown or black. So then the thing that prints up tells me brown or black.
yes. Color
Yeah.
coded.
Yeah. So they were actually at the end of the shift last night. They were like, "Are you going to need these anymore?" I'm like, "Yep, I got one more rack to do." Now there's 56 parts in this rack. I got that rack done in under 5 minutes
Wow.
because I figured I would just go down this side and get what needed to be done and then come back up this side and because my parts are on two different sides.
Mm,
Yeah, so I got it done in like 3 to 5 minutes it took me. I'm like, I have never done a rack that fast. Never.
that's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That means you're getting better at it.
Well, yes and no. It, my thought was this is my last rack I'm ever gonna do of these. Well, maybe not ever, but this is the last rack I'm doing over here. And like it was really pretty simple. So yeah. It was done pretty quickly. I've never done it that fast. And that was either running out of a part and calling for another one. Yeah, still got it done.
That is quick.
Yeah.
Crazy, crazy.
Well, they only gave me like a 15-minute warning they were doing this.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Should we
anywho,
get into this week's story?
yes, let's.
It's a fun, twisty, turny one. So, my source for this was the ABC News on YouTube. I had planned to go through and do some confirming information. Um, a lot of it I have seen in parts of other things. I just hadn't had a chance to like fully read through this stuff. But from what I see, it was all pretty consistent. And within that, Scott Turow, sorry, he's an author. Um, and I'm going to cover the case of the rape and murder of Angie Dodge. Um, she was a only child, 18. She had fairly strict upbringing. Um, Idaho Falls was a typical small community, pretty well-to-do area. Um, they were along a river, or sorry, they are along a river. I think the river moved or the town. Um, so I had found out that she had kind of a rough social life when she was young. She was slightly larger than the other children. At 18, she was 6 foot. So she was a big woman, to be fair. Um, but yeah, she didn't let that stop her though. She was pretty social. She hung out in all the different circles. She was able to, adjust and fit well with everybody. Um, since she had been bullied as a kid, she was one who would frequently stand up for those who were being bullied.
Hmm.
Didn't matter, who was doing it to who. She stood up for the person being bullied. It was just kind of the person that she was. Um, she manages to get an apartment on her own. It's a house that was converted into apartments, and hers was a upstairs one. Um, However, prior to getting this apartment, she had had a falling out with her parents because she had broken a house rule. And like that's what precipitated the moving out. Um, After 3 weeks, she finally goes back, makes amends with her mother, and is starting to repair that bond. Um, However, the very next day, Angie's mother gets the horrible news that her daughter has been found unalive.
Mm.
So I'm going to insert my trigger warning here. Um, so they find out that she has been raped and murdered. She had several slash wounds upon her body. When she was found, she was on the floor next to her bed. Her pants were essentially at her knees. Um, there had been obvious samples left behind of, bodily fluids. Um, and the fatal blow was a cut throat.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, very gruesome. Um, and it was a small community. This rocked their world. People were suddenly not safe, and especially women. It became very high priority for the police to find the killer. Um, However, I think in their haste to find the killer, they fumbled a whole lot. Um, in the report, they don't really say the initial investigators' names. In fact, I don't think they say them at all. However, the future investigators, they do get named once or twice. Unfortunately, I didn't write it down. I apologize for that. But they are primarily referred to as like lieutenant and, lead investigator, stuff like that. Um, so Angie's mother, um, oh shoot, I forgot it. Her name is very important. She is a powerhouse of a woman, let me tell you.
You know what?
Um,
I find that the mothers of like murdered women usually are either the
Carol.
mothers or the sisters of
Yeah.
a murdered woman are always badasses.
In this case, it was the mom, Carol. She is the badass and hero in this story. Um, so everything happens. They take samples. They do a great job. They take samples. Um, they actually have a forensic photographer start taking pictures from the minute he walks in the door so that everything can be seen on the way to, you know, the area. It was quite a gruesome scene. And like honestly, it didn't quite make sense to me. Um, like this woman had a lot of stuffed animals. There was a lot of blood on some of the stuffed animals, and one in particular, a teddy bear. Like it didn't make sense to me. But they do what they can. Um, she did do a good job of getting a hair sample. And so between the hair sample and the semen that were collected, they have, DNA. And a lot of people think, oh, great, DNA, you'll find them right away, no problem. Unfortunately, this is 1996. We didn't have the technology that we do today.
Right, right.
Um, I'm sorry, I forgot to say this is in June, so this is summer. Um, they do everything that they can to find out who it is. Like they're testing DNA from all kinds of people. They go out and they talk to her friends, get samples from anyone that, is willing to give one. However, 7 months goes by and they got nothing. They've got these samples, but nobody's matching. Well, one of Angie's friends, Benjamin Hobbs, in January of 1997, is arrested in Nevada for raping a woman at knife point. So they're like, oh, okay, this has to be him, same MO. So they talk to the police in Nevada. They say, hey, we think we got a link here. We need to come talk to this guy. They hit the road, they go talk to him, denies, everything straight out. Um, they test his DNA, not a match. So he, for the most part, continues to remain silent. The evidence speaks for itself, essentially. He gives his alibi, but that's it. They try to continue to hound him, doesn't work so well. Um, they this particular friend group was known as where was it now? The River Rats, because yep, I thought that was funny.
I had a friend that
They
used to call me River Rat.
Oh, that's awesome. This particular group used to hang out along the river, different groups hang in different areas. This was their spot. Um, and so in the process of the investigation of Benjamin, they end up coming across one of his friends, um, Chris Tapps. Now, Chris is a stoner, a couch surfer. He's frequently unemployed. They're like, we like this guy for this. So they suddenly go hard for this guy. They're like, we know it's him. It's got to be him. Meanwhile, he's like, I have no idea what the hell you people are talking about. Yada, yada, yada. They test his DNA, which the hair color doesn't even match.
Oh, okay.
So they know automatically hair is not going to match. So they test the other sample, not a match. He's brought in for polygraph. During the process of that, the person giving the test, what is he called? There's a specific name for that person. La, 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 la. I want to say it's a phonographer. I'm pretty sure that's it. But anyway, he says to him, well, we could end all this right now. You could just, tell me what happened and, you won't spend life in prison, or you could get the gas chamber.
Jesus.
Hmm. They end up bringing in this guy so many times, even though his DNA doesn't match. He doesn't know anything about the scene, doesn't know anything about her, how she was found. Like they're asking questions, where was she found? And he's like, the living room? They're like, no, she was found in the bedroom. So they're giving him information.
Right, right.
This man underwent 60 hours of interrogation. They would do marathons. And at one point, they have him questioning his own memory as to whether, and at one point, he's like, I don't know, maybe I was there. Yeah. The downside at that time in 1997, their lead investigator used to work at the local high school. Yeah. These are kids, 18, 20 years old. They know this man, they trust this man. Now he's a police officer, and now he's working this poor kid, and he doesn't know what to think anymore. He's been professing his innocence this entire time. Yep. Um, he does get an attorney. Unfortunately, the attorney doesn't help much. So after 60 hours, he changes his story. And then he finally confesses that he was there. He does not confess to the rape outright. He just kind of says, he was there. Well, the police aren't happy with that. They want more. They keep pushing.
Yep.
So he confesses to the rape and murder and admitting to slashing her the one time, but not actually delivering the fatal wound. All this time, the police are telling him they have proof. They know he did it. there wasn't actually any proof.
Right, right. That sounds a lot like what they did with the one of the West Memphis Three,
Mm-hmm.
where they had him. I don't remember how many hours now, but out of all the time he was in there, there's only like less than a half an hour of actual recorded, and they're leading him the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it sounds an awful lot like that.
Yeah, and that's basically, what happens. So all this time, they think that Chris was with Ben, I think it was his name. Yep, Ben, and a third party who was the one who actually did, left behind the sample, and that's whose hair it is. They're the one who delivered the fatal blow. So they're like, you need to tell us who this person is. So he ends up throwing out another name. He throws somebody under the bus because at this point, he's scared, he's tired, he's just trying to give these people what they want. He just wants to go home.
Hmm.
You know, um, oh, what the hell's his name? Where is it? Okay, there's it. Okay, here it is. Sorry. Jeremy Sarges. Naturally, he's pissed as hell. And, he's like, I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. I have no clue what's going on. Yada, yada, yada. He goes through the same process of, the DNA testing. He is also not a match. Meanwhile, in the process of doing these investigations, they would tail these men and, just watch them from a distance,
Hmm.
just, outright kind of terrorize them. So that's fun. Mind you, these are legal means as well. Um, so this guy's smart. He doesn't say a fucking thing. So now police are mad. They're like, "Hey, Chris, yeah, what the fuck? You need to tell us what the hell really happened." He's like, "Well, I don't know. That's all I know. That's all I got for you." So in February of 1997, Chris is convicted for the rape and murder of Angie Dodge. Based on his confession and no physical or DNA evidence.
That's crazy to me.
Yep.
Being on a jury, I'm assuming. Okay.
During all of it, the judge even says, had he not confessed, he never would have been convicted. Even the judge said that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the other two men, Ben and Jeremy, are not convicted because they are not DNA matches and they did not confess. Chris is sentenced to 30 years to life. Angie's mother, Carol, she's not exactly happy with this. Like she's pushing for death penalty, and like she's, very vocal at the courthouse and things like that. And saying how he should get the chair and blah 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 blah. However, she comes to be his savior. Um, she knows that there is apparently another person who was involved because DNA did not match.
Right.
So she is pushing police, hey, keep looking into this. We need to find this other person, yada yada. Unfortunately, police, they don't have any leads to go on. So she is out there actually pounding the streets, talking to people. She's out talking to the social groups. She's out talking to drug dealers and, this, that, and the other for nearly 20 years. She continues to do this. I think as she got a little older, it was getting a little harder for her, which
Mhm.
understandable. Um, she decides to take another tactic and she decides to go over the video footage of the interrogations. In the process of looking at this interrogation footage, she's like, this doesn't make sense because she's seeing the beginning where they're like, hey, what was this? Where was this? Where's her house? Yada, yada. And this guy doesn't know the answers. And she's like, holy shit, this guy's innocent. He didn't do this. And so she then hunts down Chris's current attorney because he's been appealing it, you know. In the process of sentencing, his exact words were, sorry, 1 second. I'm not the monster everyone thinks I am. Please spare my life.
Poor kid.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was the confession. That was the only thing they had to go on. If he hadn't have confessed, they never could have charged him. They just laid the breadcrumb trail. Was all it was. The judge did not seek the death penalty, obviously. So she seeks out Chris's attorney. I thought I wrote down his name. Drizzen. Yes, I think that's what it was. So she says, hey, you need to watch these videos. He's innocent. His attorney's like, wait, what? So he goes and watches and determines, or I'm sorry, they have a separate investigator watch the videos to determine, whether or not there was wrongdoing on the police's behalf, whether or not there was like coercion, things like that. And they're, continuing to look at the fact that the police are saying that they have this proof that they don't actually have. There were a total of 9 interrogation sessions.
Within those 60 hours?
Mhm. So nine sessions equaling 60 hours, including a lie detector test.
Good God.
Yep. They wore him down.
Yeah.
So they're looking at these tapes and are like, okay, he doesn't know the answers here. He doesn't know them here. They're giving him the answers. So that was something that was noted, how, they continuously give him the information that is needed. This is actually the first time that they have ever had a victim's family member come forward to say that the killer is innocent. So they're all kind of like, shit, what do we do?
Right, right. Yeah.
So the specialist who went over these interrogation videos, that report is used heavily in Chris's appeals and all of that. Um, they point out the, things that the phonographer says, saying how he's going to get life in prison or the gas chamber if,
Mhm.
he doesn't confess and this and that. Or like, he asks other questions as far as where he was that day or where he was in the house. And the test giver is going, well, no, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's the case. They go on to say that he wasn't really there to test the validity of Chris's story. He was more so there to tell Chris that he failed his test.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. However, that specialist does say that he believes Chris was there. Like, what? How? Like, and I think that's in part because of the line of questioning that was used, that it makes it look like he was.
Yeah.
Um, but the types of comments that are frequently used by the phonographer and the police, um, they are determined that they are comments that can be seen as threats, and that they can elicit false confessions. Um, and this is where the Innocence Project comes in. They actually hear about this case, and so they're like, hey, what's going on here?
Right.
You know? Um, which, love the Innocence Project. They do great work. However, at the same time, wish they would have helped with ours. But it's a whole availability thing. There wasn't anyone available.
Hmm.
Um, so they're talking with Chris's attorney, this Drizzen. They say that the police, or no, I'm sorry, no, that can't be right. I had to wrote that wrong. It can't be a polygrapher. Oh, it's something that starts with a P. They're saying that this guy and the police, they took their tactics too far. So yes, they are legal tactics, but only to a certain point.
Right,
And
right.
these ones, they step further. Um, so at this point, Carol hasn't given up. She's still reaching out to people. It is 2015, and there is still no new leads, no new evidence, no new nothing. Other than, he says this, evidence says this.
Right.
Um, so at this point, they're wanting to do something for Chris, but they really can't. Um, Carol reaches out to a woman named Cece Moore. Um, she's got a hell of a title.
Don't they always?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I missed a part.
I'm sorry if you guys can hear my birds. They're out there going a little crazy.
Sorry. In 2015, was when they launched a independent investigation into the actual conviction of Chris. And that just kind of helped to get the ball rolling as far as him actually being innocent, as far as what they can do, all of that kind of stuff. And this is where Carol, is his biggest advocate because she, knows now that he's innocent, even though back in 1997 on the courthouse steps, she's screaming for his death.
Yeah.
And
See, that also happened in the West Memphis 3 case where the parents were like, yes, yes, yes. And now they're like,
yeah, um, thankfully, Chris had changed a lot while in prison. He did not harbor any resentment or anything towards Carol for, anything. He understood, why she did it and all of that. Um, so meanwhile, still looking for the original killer. He has gone from a murderer to a potential victim. He is now 44 years old. Most motions for post-conviction relief were continuing to be filed um, and continuing to be denied. In 2017, there is a new prosecutor named Daniel Clark, and he starts looking into the case, and he's seeing it's not quite right. But at the same time, he's asking, hey, any new clear and convincing evidence, to show this? Nope. There's obvious concerns with the confession. Unfortunately, not a whole lot they can do. Um, so in the end, he and Taps's attorney team come up with a deal. Um, the best they can do is remove the rape charge. Um, so he is no longer a sex offender and he can be released. He is still a murderer, unfortunately. He still has that charge against him. Um, but Carol and Daniel work together to find the real killer. Um, so in November of 2018, Carol reaches out to the world-renowned genetic genealogist. Sorry, like I knew it and it wasn't clicking as I was reading it.
words are hard.
CC, right? CC Moore. So at this point, it's 22 years. Um, and though the DNA evidence was, well collected, it was kind of preserved. But there is still degradation, from time. Um, there was a piece of blood that couldn't have been tested in 1996 that was now able to be tested. Um, However, they work on like a scale, and depending upon where you are on the scale is how well they can do with finding the different markers and things like that to be able to make familial connections. Um, because what they do is it's kind of like the 23andMe or any genealogy
Hmm.
where you get to spit in a tube and send it off and they tell you you're related to this person. That's essentially what they do. They get that
Okay.
DNA and they compare it to Ancestry and they search through obituaries, marriage certificates, stuff like that to create a family tree to a potential DNA links.
Okay.
So they do all of this. They come up with 6 potential suspects. However, only one lived in Idaho. So this is where it kind of became the fun part. Um, Police go to this town that is a couple of hours away and they want to get samples secretly from this guy. They find out that he has a son as well. So if they can't get DNA from the man that they want it from, they could get it from the son
To-
to, to help coordinate, the DNA to be like, okay, this is son's DNA. It matches this for this many markers.
mhm.
Um, so they spend a couple of days out in this rural farm area. Um, it's kind of like going to visit Dan. All the fields everywhere, and you can see
Okay,
all
well,
the
not
different
all of
side
us have
roads.
went and visited Dan, so
Okay, sorry. Um, Basically major farm area, nothing but fields and the like sporadic houses. So it's exceptionally hard for police to put surveillance on the house.
mhm.
It's exceptionally hard to tail this guy without anyone or without him noticing.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you're the only two cars on the road for 40 minutes, you kind of notice each other.
Yeah.
So they're doing their best to stay on the down low. They end up splitting up the team. Half follows the son, half follows the father. Um, the son actually goes to the bank and is apparently a chewer and spits all over the ground. Yep, yep. That's why I don't like to wear shoes throughout the house. So they are able to collect the DNA of the son. Meanwhile, Dad is driving in his truck, smoking a cigarette, arm out the window, and they're just waiting for him to drop that butt.
Yep.
He finally does. Unfortunately, it is scattered amongst 100 other butts. They can't pinpoint, excuse me, sorry. They can't pinpoint specifically which one was his. They were looking for the smoking butt, but they couldn't find it. So they come back. They do more tailing as best that they can. Um, they finally watch him and are able to collect a button. They test it. It's a no, right? Like, how could that be wrong? The DNA led you here.
Right.
Come to find out, there was a marriage prior that they weren't able to see. It was like a secret marriage,
Mhm.
because it was to a woman who actually was a young girl of 16. So Miss Moore and her team are like, okay, where's the kid? 16-year-olds don't get married unless there's a kid. So they're scrounging around looking for, this missing link. They finally find it and they're like, holy shit. Because this guy was in Idaho Falls in 1996.
Mm.
In the process of going through a divorce, and ironically lived right across the street from Miss Angie Dodge's apartment.
All right.
Yep. So they're able to track him down where he lives now. Still in Idaho, just a couple hours away. So they go covert mode again. And another rural area, exceptionally hard to survey. He too is a smoker. And ironically, this guy stops at a bank. That's how they're able to get this guy. They do collect a cigarette butt from him as well to confirm DNA does match. They go in for the kill, essentially. Um, as he is coming out of the bank, I hate to say it, but he's like the typical 50-plus-year-old man living in a small town. He's wearing camo fatigues, black shirt, and a long white goatee.
Alright.
Yep. So they approach him. They're trying to convince him to come in and talk to him. And he's like, initially, he must have agreed, but says, "Hey, can I go home quick first?" The officers agree. One of the guys jumps in to the truck with this guy. They go follow him to his house. He lets out his dogs, says goodbye to his mother, gives her a hug, and goes with the police.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. It was surprisingly very civil. Um, so they bring him in. They're talking to him. Initially, he's completely denying everything, any involvement, doesn't know her, doesn't do nothing. Um, Unfortunately, after I think it was 5 hours, um, he is like, you know what? I didn't do it, yada yada, but let me have a cigarette break. He has his cigarette break, he comes back, and it said that he kind of just slumped in his chair and at the table. And to me, it's like he deflated. And he says, "Yeah, I did it. I raped her. I didn't mean to kill her, but I guess I did."
Well, usually a knife to the throat will do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, he admits to living across the street from her and that he had gone over there with the intent to rape her, not to kill her. He was high on cocaine and exceptionally drunk. Um, he said that he had a pocket knife on him. He doesn't really go into details in his confession. And it's that when he's in court, the judge asks him, "Why are you saying, why are you confessing to this? What are you confessing to exactly?"
Hmm.
Basically, to make him say it in his own words in court. Um, and that's what he says in court. Um, he is convicted. Um, his DNA matches. He confesses. Um,
Sorry for all the
okay.
yawning. It's been a long week.
That's all right. So June 8th, 2021, Brian Drips is convicted. Um, 20 years to life with 20 years fixed, in the rape and murder of Angie Dodge. July 17th, 2019, Chris Tapp was finally exonerated for the rape and murder of Angie Dodge. Um, and it was based on actual innocence, is how the judge says it in court, based on actual innocence. It was also in another part that he'd be awarded, I believe it was $11 million, or it may have been 111, but I want to say it was 11. Um, the attorney for Brian Drips, after everything, comes out and says how he has been diagnosed with a chronic illness and how he will die in prison. He will
Good,
never set foot, he will never be free again.
good.
And the only reason he was finally brought to justice, and the only reason Chris was able to go free, was because of Carol Dodge. and her persistence in finding out who her daughter's killer was.
Yeah, she's definitely a badass.
She is. So, yeah. I do want to go on to say that Chris Tapp, unfortunately, is no longer alive.
Oh,
Um, he was actually killed by one of his friends who unfortunately punched him the wrong way.
oh Lord.
Yeah. It's my understanding that friend was convicted of murder, even though it wasn't intentional.
Right, right.
Um, yeah, Chris definitely never had the life he was supposed to have.
Mm-mm.
And then he had it cut short yet again.
Mm, that's sad. That's like a sad footnote.
It is.
I was hoping you were gonna say he's thriving.
He was doing good for so long. I mean, he had his struggles, obviously. And he even goes on to say, it doesn't matter who you are, prison changes you at your
Mm-hmm.
core.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, of course.
So, and I already knew that, but yeah, it was so unfortunate. He was doing good. He had been thriving, and yeah.
Mhm. That's awful.
Yep. I did try to find out if the other guy was still alive. However, I could not find anything to say yes or no. So, however, it's only been a few years since he got thrown in. I'm gonna say he's probably still alive, unfortunately.
I hope he's still alive and miserable as fuck. That's my hope.
Honestly, he's getting mediocre medical care, so who knows?
Yeah.
Depends
And
on what his chronic illness is, really.
yeah. And how is Carol Dodge? Like, how's she?
Um, it is noted towards the end that she had hoped that she would still be around to see, the end of it. I didn't actually catch anything as far as any of her health. She looked great, honestly.
Okay. So she's
Um,
still alive then.
I don't know if she is or not.
Okay.
I didn't get that far in looking up to where they are today. I got the other two. So, but yeah, she was definitely a badass and she definitely did her best for everyone that she could.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for that one. Uh,
You're welcome.
that was good but sad. I'm really
It was,
bummed.
yeah.
What's that?
And it's unfortunate that so much of his life was taken from him,
Mm-hmm.
all because the police wouldn't accept no for an answer. They
Yeah.
wouldn't accept that he didn't do it. They were so convinced. And unfortunately, if they hadn't zeroed in on them, they might have actually found the right killer.
Yeah.
But they were so convinced it had to be this group.
Yeah, that's
And then again, they think that, a lot of it was the need to solve the crime
mm,
to be able to appease the public.
yeah. And like I said, there's so much of that kind of mirrors the whole West Memphis 3 is um I think the main difference is like their advocates were celebrities,
Hmm.
and I don't want to say it got things done faster, but like it got things done, and they're out, and I just wish the police would, like, get to their shit and test the stuff that they claimed was damaged in a fire that never happened.
Yeah, the case that I originally wanted to do for this week, which I still want to cover, it's similar to this one, but a lot more twisty turny. In that particular case, evidence is pooled together in one bag.
Okay.
As in, pieces of clothing are put together with other pieces of clothing that should never touch because that's cross-contamination.
Mm, Jesus
So
Christ.
that eliminates any retesting that can be done on it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a whole lot more that was done to the evidence in that case, and it's just like, what? Why? Who does that?
Yeah. My son was telling me about one, and I'm hoping to find enough um to make an up because he's telling me about it, and I'm like, okay. And then he comes in here with me and brings up the video, and I'm like, oh my God, I really I want to cover it. But I just want to make sure there's enough out there
Hmm.
to, make an episode. Um,
Yeah, and with this one, if you look up either Angie Dodge or Chris Tapp, it will bring up the 2020 episode of this. And then there's also lots of other videos in relation to it. So,
mhm. Yeah. So, and that brings me to, and I think we talked about this last time, or maybe that's when I got cut off. Who fucking knows? I want to apologize again for any technical bullshit. I don't know why, because we had at that point been on like an hour prior, and
we
then
were doing good, and then all of a sudden,
all of a sudden on my screen, Jenny froze, and I was like, we must be and then boom, I'm gone. I'm like, what the fuck?
meanwhile, I was sitting here going, I don't know what just happened.
Yeah, well, I I don't know. My thing is, it happened during retrograde, so that's what I'm blaming on.
It was retrograde. Mercury was Mercurin.
It sure fucking was. Um, so this is episode 98. 2 weeks, it'll be 100. And I know I posted something in the group, but we would like some ideas of what you guys would like to see us do for our 100th episode. Because to me, that's a big one. Like,
Hmm.
I didn't know we would be doing it for that long.
Yeah, but I'm kind of glad we have.
Yeah, me too. It's fun.
It is.
Um, it could be work sometimes though, like doing the research. Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
I got halfway through the research, or not the full research, but like doing my investigative part for the other case, and I was like, oh shit, this is way too much. I can't do this one for this week.
yeah, I mean you got your studying and stuff to worry about right now. Um, but like, do you want us to do like a paranormal thing? Um, maybe for episode, like our 100th episode, we could do like a live as the episode.
That would be fun.
And that way people can interact with us while we're doing it.
Yeah. So let us know what you would like us to do.
Yeah. I kind of like the idea of a live. So then at that point, it's got to be just like, do we want to do it like a Facebook live? Do we want to do like a live on YouTube, which I've never done, so I don't know the first thing about it.
Me either.
We might have to
But
dick
we can
around with,
figure it out.
yeah, we might have to dick around with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we'll, we'll figure it out. Figure something out. And then I don't know, maybe if we do a live subject matter, do you want us to work together on a case? Do you want us to just do like a list? Which I don't know, that would be fun, but maybe a little lazy. Um,
Well, I think a list would work if we were doing a live, because
Mhm.
then we can discuss each of the things on the list.
Yeah. Yeah. So does a live sound like a good idea? Let us know. Um, if you want to let us know, and um if you listen on Spotify or one of like the audio things, find us on YouTube, same name, Creepy Soup, K with a K. My son was telling me his coworker listens.
Oh,
And
oh, awesome. Hi, coworker.
I guess he went to look for it, or he showed interest or some shit, but he was spelling it with a C and not a K. So my son said when he works with him again, he will definitely ask him. Um, so maybe he doesn't listen. He was going to listen. I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
Um,
hopefully he'll listen to this one. And
yeah. So if you listen somewhere else and we end up doing a YouTube live, find our YouTube, subscribe, and hit the little notification thing. And
if you come over, leave a comment and let us know that you came over from there.
yeah. Or if we decide to do a Facebook live, um, join our page. There are questions to answer. If you don't answer the questions, you're not getting we so make sure
We
you
don't
answer the
accept you.
yeah, we don't I mean there's been a few that I've seen unless I see that they've been invited by you or
Yeah,
someone else, then I'm like, all right, don't like it, but I'll let them skip because if you bring them, they're good people. It's kind of how I
I
see it.
try. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, if you're not in our Facebook group, search that out, answer the questions. Um, maybe I'll put a link to the Facebook group in the notes, so that people can join. Um, so yeah, let us know what you want and we'll figure all that out.
And we'll see you next time.
So on that note, have a great week and see you soon. Bye.
Bye.